Demand Your Conversion community. We're live on the webinar here, and we've got our guest CC's our second time interviewing her.
Yeah, and after the first time interviewing CC, and I interviewed her one time too for another show.
You did?
I don't understand why everyone doesn't listen to everything that CC Underwood says.
She's good. She's good. Well, that's why we have you back. Plus, she's got a pretty hat on. So
I'm gonna run and get my hat, but I'll never compete with CC Underwood.
Well, I've got about 2 hats that do me justice.
I love it. I love it. Well, the topic today is going to be on team building, the successes and the struggles. And I wanted to start off with the struggles because that was, I mean, you and I would text back and forth, and you were really having some struggles 2020, beginning of 2020, right? And that turned around and you had amazing success last year, which was awesome. Congrats.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about the struggles, because everybody starts with all the good stuff. Where were you at the beginning of 2020, and what were those struggles you had that you said, damn, is this really worth it? I mean, am I gonna be going through this all the time? What were those? Because I've had those, so I know you had those.
Well, it's crazy, right? And I talk a lot about, January 1, we all start at 0. We're basically starting from scratch. And even if you're a small team or a large team, it's, hey, am I going to be able to do what I did last year? What are my hurdles? What's going to get in my way? And right, there's also a lot of talk of, do you have to go bigger? Do you have to crush that goal in terms of units? And so internally, there's always that struggle of, well, are we going to be able to do it again? And with who? And you never know what's going to happen, even though I say you cannot plan for events, that are your external events, but you can, in a sense, right? You don't know specifically what's going to happen. And yet you can always be prepared and always be that solution focused team and have that mindset of, well, if something happens, I don't know what it is, but I know I'm going to do something about it. And yeah, 2020, we were coming off a really, really great year. Our best year that we ever had. We, closed 291 homes, had a really, big team, almost 20 people. So we were on a high. And, or I guess coming off of what year? This is 2021. So that was coming off of 2019. And 2020 was like, we're excited, we're going to go through this, and it's going to be a stellar year. And then COVID happened.
But can we pause for a second on the 2019 ending with 291 units? Like, can we get just a half a second there? I know CC likes to move on, but can we get a wow, are you serious? It
was insane. I mean, and that was a crazy year. Before that, I was doing coaching. I put myself, so I was out of production. I've been out of production since 2015, maybe selling 10 homes a year. And so that was a huge shift. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. I got to get back in. I've got to be focused on my team. I've got more people coming in. There's a lot that happens. And that was a big growth year for us too. The year before, I don't know the exact numbers. I know we sold almost 100 more homes in 2019 than we did in 2018. So it was a massive growth year.
Whoa.
Very chaotic to add that many transactions over a year.
I love that. So can you tell me what I like the shift, by the way. How did you go from that to 100 plus units that year? Did you add staff? Did you shift your lead generation? What did that look like?
I think it was a combination. When you look back on how in the hell did we get here type of thing, it didn't just happen. We know things don't just happen. They're accumulated over time. So I look at the people that were with me, the majority of our team had finally been with us for 3, 4, 5 years, right? they had tenure on the team, which means there were tons of referrals on the team. They started having past customers that were coming back to sell the homes and buy another that they had purchased with them first when they were new agents on our team. So I think you had the snowball effect along with an increasing market and new agents and a lot of energy. And we had ISAs. It all came to, and it was just a really massive growth year.
All right, that makes sense. All right, so let's go into now you having this type of a debacle, right? Because I've had it. I had it in 2015. I had an amazing year, and then everything fell apart, right? Like literally, my whole team fell apart. So tell me how it started and why you think it happened. Why your team started falling apart. What did that look like?
So it started with it started with a couple of admin. You know, everyone's working from home. After we started reevaluating who's coming back, when are we coming back, what are we doing? A few people evaluated and said, I can't come back. We had an admin at the time, had a special needs daughter, and she's like, I can't come back to the office. I need to be at home. I don't have care. So that was situational, right? Then we had an ISA that within 30 days of the pandemic basically said, I'm out. The rejection rate skyrocketed.
Wow.
I mean, the rejection rate was so much that he was like, I'm out. And then we fired the other one due to drama. And then it was just kind of that snowball. And I think too, like when you see someone, it's almost like when you see other agents jump and ship to another brokerage, it already, your psyche gets going, well, shit, someone else is leaving. Should I be leaving? You know, someone puts a sign in the yard or they're selling their house. Should I be selling my house? I think a lot of that potentially came into effect. And there were conversations that I think people were likely having before the pandemic hit, right? And I think we all know extreme events cause people, those are emotional. Logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. And so I think this brought on a ton of emotions. So I think there were probably people on the team who were considering leaving. They were having those conversations at home. And I think, and to some degree, COVID gave them an out. Mm-hmm. Overall, I think, you know, we have to, I think as team leaders, rainmakers, you have to understand that our people are recruitable. They are having conversations with other brokers. They are thinking about going off on their own. They are thinking about starting their own teams. These conversations happen, whether you think they are, they aren't, they are. And the difference is, you know, what happens and what's that cause. So I think it triggered a lot of people, a lot of good conversations. We had a top producer that chose to leave and start her own team, and you know, it is doing well. This person sold 130 homes with us the year prior, and you know, she obviously works her butt off. You know. And she did. She went and started her team, and there are some people that left prior to that and left after. I think in total we had 12 or 14 people exit the team in 2020.
Oh man,
it was a lot.
That's a ton. All right, so you brought up something that happened to me too, by the way, and then it allowed me to morph my team into a better team because of it, right? One thing that you mentioned is one of your top producers left and then successfully started growing a team of their own and is doing well. Mm-hmm. So I remember when that happened to me, and I'm telling you this story because I want to know what you are doing now as you grew from that, okay? I had this great guy, and I groomed him into becoming an amazing agent, right? From a UPS manager to an agent. Mm-hmm. And he came to me like 2 years later or so. He was doing amazing on his own on my team. He said, hey, look, I want to stay on the team. Is there any other position that I can grow into? And at that time, I was like, I mean, there's nothing else that I could think of, right? So I kind of said no. And then he said, well, you know, I think I'm going to step out and do my own thing. So he stepped out and he became $100 million producer, right? My competitor. And I was like, damn, good job. And I was like, I screwed that up, right? So I shifted my team model to be able to grow team leaders inside of my team because of it. And since then, I haven't lost a top producer because of it. So how did you shift from that, or how did you learn from that? What did you adapt on your team?
So interesting that that basically was that agent's position, right? She was a team, not really a team leader, but it's essentially it was our expansion location. So we had worked together for 3, 4 years to build out that location. So a lot of the team's resources were spent on, you know, providing customer service, doing the support, the follow up, the events, everything, and grew in that location. So that model was really already there. We did encourage assistants, we encouraged buyers agents, showing agents to grow that. It was resisted while it was on the team. So I think ultimately that decision was, it was personal. It was probably, hey, I want to grow my own brand, and understand like that's completely okay. But to, to answer your question, where did we go from that was, number one, I wasn't given an opportunity of where we could, where we can grow. It was, the decision was made. And at that point, I truly feel this to a core with my team. If they believe that that is what's going to make them happy, I'm not going to throw money at a problem. I don't ever recommend throwing money at a problem, because it's temporary. You think you can buy someone to stay on your team, you're wrong. It's eventually the desire to do something else will take over eventually. So it's a temporary fix. And, we mutually agreed like this was going to be the best decision. You go off and be on your own, still in that expansion location. And yeah, is there a temporary hurt to the team? Absolutely. There is a temporary adjustment, but it is very temporary, because it's like anything else. When one person leads that assumed to be a leader on your team, other people, for whatever reason, may not feel that freedom while they're on the team to grow and blossom. So when one person leaves, we had so many people step up and raise their hand and seize that opportunity and jump in. We hired a phenomenal ISA. It took us a while. And that was the part, like a lot of our business was from our ISA department. So we didn't have ISAs for probably a good 6 months.
Whoa.
And that hurt us more than the agent. Let me just tell you right there, the ISAs, not having them hurt us more than any agent ever will.
What do the ISAs do, now that you brought that up?
So our ISAs were responsible for setting listing appointments and buyer appointments for our agents.
And are they calling cold leads, your database? What are they calling?
Mostly internet expireds were big for that department back then. They were setting a lot of expired appointments, a lot of our listing lead appointments, and also our incoming buyer leads. And that is still our model today, that all leads go to the ISA and the ISA sets the appointments for our agents.
Oh, I like that. It's very similar to Robert Slack. You know Robert Slack
Mhm.
in your area. Very similar to that. Paul, I noticed you raised.
You know what? Yeah, you hit some great stuff, but there were some things that were glossed over for me for sure that I wanted to get into. One of them, really, there's sort of two things that you touched on that I know the teams deal with all the time, and one of them is what things do you do? And Tristan, you kind of hit on this too. What things do you do in order to prevent that top producer from leaving? Now, I get from CC, I get it, I hear you. And that's, you're building this team over time. And eventually some folks are going to grow out of your team, and that's okay.
Yep.
That's part of what you think will happen when you move forward. But just like Tristan said, did you shift anything, or are you doing certain things so that that doesn't happen more often? Or there's some steps you're taking?
I mean, internally, it's not that we didn't care that that person left. It was, I'm not going to try to change someone's mind. And like you said, we're going to learn from it. So internally, we're looking, we're talking to the agents. And at that time, when it wasn't just one person that was really affecting the team, it was the fact that it was one after the other, after the other, after the other. The flies kept falling, and it was like, hey, I got to have another conversation with the team. Somebody else is leaving. And to keep the energy up was probably one of the hardest things that we had to do, was keep the energy up for the people that truly wanted to be there, so that they weren't thinking, the team was crumbling and something was going on. And there was a lot of outside public chatter of, you're never going to survive. Your producer left, like your team's going to suck now. And, just a lot of negative backlash from that. And it was like, I built, I've had this team before. I've had other people leave, and it's the system. The good thing is, when you look at a top producer leaving, not all the units leave, right? There's a good chunk of that business that the team was providing that value. So the team is still going to provide the same value. Did we lose some past customers and referrals? Yes, and you will. Like, there are some people who are going to completely leave your organization and go with that.
Yeah.
And so to that respect, we made some changes on how the team communicate better with the past customers, so that we have more of an influence. We have more of a communication stance from a team perspective, because we do understand that buyers and sellers form relationships with the agents. There are some relationships we won't win back. But the more we can, communicate with those people and hold on to them. I also know there are very few agents that when they leave this team that will stay successful, because they don't communicate, because they don't have the systems. And so that's our opportunity. And kudos, to that agent who did stay in touch and form relationships. That's what an agent should do. But we also learned from that.
That's
And
a
so
great question. Paul.
I got two great takeaways from that. And one is that, primarily, and I could be wrong. So I'm getting it from what CC and Tristan, what you guys are saying. So to begin with, one of the real value adds here is, hey, we're a team. We're not just a group of people. So we've got all these great systems. Now, if you are, if you want to be part of this, you take what you have going on right now, you add our systems, and that gives you a platform to catapult off of that. Now, to the extent that people get in there and they get the systems and they're like, we want to go on our own. Generally, they when they leave, generally they don't have it that systematized to begin with. And one of the things that I've noticed is that it's like, people like you, CC, you get on webinars with us and you're like, oh, well, let me share this with you and let me share that with you. And it's a growth mindset for sure. I have other people who are like, well, why don't I want to share my stuff with other people? And part of the answer is, well, a lot of the answer is because you're a great person and you believe that in giving you'll receive. And I understand that fully. And then there's this other piece where, just from a practical matter, you could share the most amazing systems that you have, period. And like 99.9% of the people aren't going to use them anyway, right? So you've got this systematized piece. That's one thing. And then the other thing, because I'm grabbing the takeaways. So the other thing is that you began to communicate more as a team as well. So that in addition, like, hey, we have all these great systems. Hey, now we've added Sally Smith. She's really good. Now she went to great with my team and systems, but we are still communicating a lot to the public as a team. That's something that will be lost if Sally Smith were to want to go to another place. Mm-hmm. And I have another question for you, because there was such amazing stuff there. And you and Tristan are in the mindset of people who run successful teams. Okay. But I got to know, you lose 12 to 14 people. Okay. You did this massive amount of transactions. You lose 12 to 14 people, including one that was a top producer that did 130 deals. And then there's this sort of cascade, right? Oh, well, she's leaving, maybe we should leave. And is there really value of this team at all? And then there's talk on the street, CC's team, forget it. How do you survive that? Like you're out of it now and you're like, oh, well, it was all good. I just stuck my nose to the grindstone. When you were in there in that moment, what was going on in your head?
I mean, honestly, it was just kind of what I talked about with solution. After the first 30 days, people were so confused on what to do. I think in that instant, it is still important to be a leader for your people. And for me, it was giving them focus. providing them direction, providing them focus, taking some sort of fear that they had and put it into faith that, okay, they're with someone who knows what they're doing, right? That has a clear direction for themselves, for the team, and for the people that are serving and working together. It was, here's my plan. This is what we're going to do. When it came to events that got shut down, here, not doing anything is not an option. Here's what we do. We need a mastermind. So it was giving them focus and clarity to, when you're a leader, that is your job. I mean, they're all questioning themselves. They're all questioning what's going on, not just in business, they're home. I have a ton of, we're all women, they're mothers, they are now teachers at home. So you had all these external things. And so just giving grace to them and saying, yes, there's business, but I mean, these are also people, these are my people. And I am very well aware that the way I think in my mind is not how they think. So it is very much, caring, how are you doing, checking in on my people, as well as you still need money to pay your bills. What are we doing to stay connected to each other while we're at home, as well as our people? And how are we going to add a little fun in there? Because that fun, that levity, even whether it be me on TikTok and they're just focusing, right? It's just taking the focus away from the negative and giving them a solution. Like, here's what we are doing. Are you following me? And they are following with me.
What was that solution that you gave them? Because you said earlier on, what logic, I don't know what you said, logic gets you thinking, emotion gets you into action. Is that what you said?
I wrote that down, of course. That's one of my CC takeaways.
That was a good
Logic
takeaway.
gets you to think and emotion gets you to act. Do you think I'm going to miss the goal that
was
CC's giving us here?
It's a bold lie, but I mean, it is true. It's something to live by. And we see it in real estate. We see it in our people. They might have thoughts, but I mean, when something like a pandemic happens and you're working from home and jobs are being lost and your kids, I mean, you are in a very high emotional state. You do things, drastic things that you may not have done normally. So for here, you do have to bring people, as Mike Mayer would say, bring them back to Logical Island on your boat. So when people are running away and going crazy with their thoughts, like, it's your job to bring them back to reality and focus. And so our events were all canceled and they're like, oh my God, how are we going to stay in touch? And okay, 30 days, we're down for the count. But by then I'm super antsy and I don't take lightly to someone telling me no, and I can't do something. So it was, okay, what are we doing? We need to think about how we can have an event. And we went probably one of the first teams to get into that virtual event, because we were like, absolutely not. We are going to do bingos. We're masterminding. We're talking to other teams. What are you doing? And then it just spiraled into this really great virtual events that we were able to stay in touch with our people. And Paul, to your point, we already had those systems in place. It was events and communication, because on our team, our agents will receive 2 to 3 times more referrals with us than they will. It's not just the system for a team that's important, is what does the system help you achieve? And for us, one of our highest value items is that you will receive 2 to 3 times more referrals with us because of how we communicate with your past customers, with everyone, how we bring them together and give you that additional face value time. So it was important to me that we allowed that to still continue, even if it was virtual.
And I know that we are interviewing CC and but Tristan has a lot of experience with teams also. And Tristan, you mentioned that that you had this guy who you really developed him, and then he became a superstar. And I know, CC, you've answered this in part already, but it is a question. It's a lingering question that I hear all the time from people who are very talented and really want to start a team. And one of the big impediments is, I'm going to train these people and then they're going to leave me. And then I'm going to train some other people and then they're going to leave me. And here, and fast forward 7-8 years. And now I've got like my top competitors in my own farm are the people that have seen all of the inside of what I do. Mm-hmm. So, I put that question out to, and Tristan, maybe you could take a stab at it, because I know you mentioned the guy that was a postal manager, if I had that correct, and then is out crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what we learned from it, and that was we needed to create a process from the very beginning when we're bringing people in to let them know how to leave properly, right? Because some people, we never have that conversation with them and they just leave one day. And so now we sit down with them and say, okay, great, you jumped onto the team, but let me explain to you how you can leave properly to not burn this relationship. Because at that time, I wasn't the Tristan that I am now, right? Because of lab coat agents. So now it's a lot easier for people to be like, oh shoot, I don't want to burn this relationship. But then I was like, let's talk about how to leave properly. That means you come to me in person, call me for a meeting and say, hey, this is the situation. This is where I'm at. I'm thinking of leaving, or I want to leave, but I want to let you know first, right? So I need that communication, because one thing that I don't know if you guys know Steve De La Viega, he was running the sales department for Fidelity National Title. He told me one thing. He said, Tristan, everybody just expect everybody who comes into your organization to leave one day.
Mm-hmm.
Expect that from the very beginning. This way you're preparing ahead. Don't be scared of teaching them what they need to do to succeed. Be scared that you didn't teach them how to leave your organization properly. And that always stuck with me. Mm-hmm. So now we have this process so everybody knows how to leave correctly, right?
And
that's what I think.
Well, what a magnificent point. It reminds me of something that I implement in a very different, similar but different context. And that is this. In any one of my offices, if somebody wants to start a team and they want to add these agents and that sort of thing, they can do that. They don't have to come say, hey, Paul, we want to do this. Can we have your advice or permission? One of the things that when two producing agents get together, that, pardon me, that's when I will generally have a conversation like, well, how's the cap going to work? And, John and I we're going to combine, we're going to become one team. And I always say, well, I really get at it, well, what do you expect to get out of it? And and they have these grand plans of what's going to happen. That's good. I think that's good, right? To have all these great reasons why it's going to happen. And one of the things that I do, if they allow my coaching, is I say, I want to know what's all the upside. And generally people are really in tune with that. That's why they want to do the team together, generally. And the other thing that I do is I make them create an exit plan. Okay. So what would happen? I want you to outline what would happen if you two were to decide to break up, because, like marriages, right? Marriage is 50% breakup unless you're in LA, right? Unless you're in LA, I think it's probably like 80%, right? But this is, this is planning ahead so that you guys have created a new logo. If you go your own separate ways, who gets the logo? What happens to the database? What happens to the clients? How are you going to figure out which clients go where? And I want a one pager, okay, that shows you that shows how you break up the team. You would be surprised to know that some percentage. Now, if you're really hot and heavy about starting a team, I give you that assignment. Here's what really happens. More than 50% don't do the assignment. Okay. That's okay. Then they do their team. That's fine. Of the, let's say the 50% or 40% who actually do the assignment, a small but significant percentage decide not to do the team. Maybe a third, still 2/3, they're excited about it, right? So 50% don't do the assignment, they do it, the other group, but a third will actually go through that list and they get into arguments about what's going to happen with a database and what's going to happen with this, imagine, and this is on the way in. Nobody gets into a partnership thinking that it's going to fail. They get into the partnership because of all the possible upside. So creating that exit plan. And so I just had that idea based on what Tristan said. And I wonder, Cece, if you validate that or, call BS on it, but it would be an interesting thing to actually have maybe a written exit plan for people who join the team. Say, okay, well, we're going to give you the team. There's going to be, you know, some of this is intellectual property. Some of it's just stuff you can find anywhere. Okay. So we're not going to put these permanent handcuffs on you. But if, you know, if and when you ever want to leave the team, I like the way Tristan said it. Here's a way to leave gracefully.
Yep. No,
You know?
I agree with that 100%. Like contracts. And I tell this, even whenever we're bringing on agents, I spend a lot of time actually talking about the exit agreement. You know, I spend a lot of time on ownership. I start, even when I go through, I go, I want you to read carefully ownership. I want you to read carefully this termination clause. This is what will happen. And this is what I go by. I'm very clear and transparent because, again, everything is good now. And I would love for you to stay forever. However, in the event that you leave, I'm telling you today, I will go by this contract. I will not go by how I feel about you. I will not go on how loyal you were for the past 3 to 4 years. I will not go on what you did for the business. I will go by this contract. That is it. So sign it knowing this is what I will go by. And I get a lot of backlash. People are like, you know, all that ownership, because ours is for 12 months from the day you leave. If you work with any of the team customers, you still owe the team. And people are like, that's like crazy. Why would someone do that? Well, I've spent 13, 14 years building the systems that you're likely going to leave and copy. And you're going to take it as your own and duplicate it in a very short time frame. So yeah, I consider it my payback for the time invested. In some way, the team had a part of that business. Either we provided the listing that you got the open house. The team is never, ever going to do your job as a realtor. We are never going to convert someone like additionally for you. I mean, my God, the teams now, the way that teams are evolving to literally before agents were dialing for dollars and you had to do your own lead generation. And now we're all going to this, you know, we had the ISA model that was going to help you. And now we're at this point now in our team where we're literally golden ticket handing you a buyer appointment that has already been talked to, qualified, nurtured, handheld, put on your calendar for you. And yes, you will do the job of a realtor regardless if you're on a team or not. You will make that phone call, you will make the follow-up, you will negotiate. You're going to do that regardless. However, the team's involvement is going to be so thick that there is going to be lingering effects from all the involvement, all the events we pay for, all the communication. Our last panel, we communicate over 100 times a year. You think that didn't play a part in them continuing to give you referrals a year later? Yes, it did. So yes, for 12 months, we will be paid because the contract state you won't talk to anyone. But we also know their relationships are intact. It's not likely as much as, you know, again, as much as you want to say you can't talk to them. Social media, it's too easy for people to communicate. It's going to happen. So again, when that does happen, here is how the payout will work. If you would like to benefit your single agent or new team career based on the people that your old team helped you generate, the right thing to do is to pay them back for it for that first 12 months. I truly feel like that is the right thing to do because you are benefiting financially. You aren't starting from scratch. You aren't growing it on your own. You're not starting from the bottom. You're actually starting as a 4 or 5 year producing agent based on systems that a 13, 14 year team has built.
Cece, I'm going to play that as my introduction to joining my team now. I'm going to send that little clip and be like, listen to this first.
Oh.
That was so good. That was
I'm
really
a little passionate about that because we all know, and whenever you go to build your own team, you'll understand where that passion comes from. It's thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars failing at systems, at people, to have the right people that you jumped into and you benefited from day one. It took our money. So, you know, feel that passion. While you might think it feels wrong in the moment when you leave a team, understand it has nothing to do with them not valuing you as a person. It has everything to do with them protecting what they've built for their family and the people that chose to stay. So honor that team back, honor them, that they have allowed you to grow and learn and be a person that can build something on your own. Honor them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, one of the things too that it's just another thing that I see is with teams and people want to build a team, and they really, these, let's say you've got one or two people, one or two realtors there, they really do have quite a bit of value, maybe a lot of value, and they don't articulate the value proposition of their team effectively. And so I think that's why Tristan said, "Hey, let me grab what you said, and I'm gonna play that for team members," because and I know that I'm sure Tristan does a great job of it for sure, but
Not that good.
okay.
Not that good. That was good.
Yeah, I did go. I snuck out and I got my hat so that I could I look weird with it on, but I came back from Mexico, so I thought anyway, oh well. But I thought I would get some of the CC magic by putting that straw hat on. It did not work. But it really is something for people who want to build a team. Now you've got the team, maybe you've got the systems, you've got all that sort of thing. You have to have a value proposition that you articulate in a very strong, powerful elevator pitch style. Okay. And the elevator pitch is, is of course it's under a minute. And I would spend, the first, 10 or 15, and again, I throw this out there to the experts. So you guys just go, hey, no, we disagree. But I would spend the first, 10 or 15 seconds saying, hey, I'm CC Underwood. This is my experience. This is my journey. This is how many homes we've sold. And then immediately, we want to be, here's what I want to be known for. That's always a good thing for an elevator pitch. What do you want to be known for? That's a good question. Answer that question. We're known for customer service, getting buyers and, getting sellers the highest price in the shortest amount of time, whatever that is, a smooth transaction, and morph it very quickly into because your audience now are agents. Morph it very quickly, 10 or 15 seconds about you and your great stuff about you, and then everything relatable to agents and what will be different for them when they come to your when they come to your team. So, you might have somebody that's already doing pretty good. And the first thing they're going to want to say is, well, why do I want to join CC? When I'm doing just fine, I'm at Keller Williams or I'm at another firm. I don't pay the house that much. It's all good. Things are good. Why in the world do I want to go to CC? And now I'm going to take a tougher split or whatever it is. And I know that CC has the answer to that because it's contained in her elevator pitch. So definitely work on an elevator pitch. And that's the structure that I would use. 45 seconds, a minute, 15 seconds about you, and then all relatable of this is how it's going to help you. This is how it's going to help you. This is how it's going to help you. Comments on that?
No, I think that's right. It is, we've spent a lot of time working on our value proposition, making sure, because like you said, we may know it, but not always do your agents know it. Like you do have to constantly remind them, hey, this is something that your team does, because of everything that ISAs, the admin, the transaction coordinators, virtual assistants, all these people in the back end, even though they're there is like this, I don't know, like a misunderstanding of the value that they have. So it is just constantly, hey, remember your team did this for you, and we did this, and we did this. And collaboration, just, little things. I talk about tangibles, and whenever we're talking with agents that want to join, there are tangible value, right? This costs X, but I also spend quite a bit of time talking on intangible value. And I think this is something that we can all learn to communicate more and more, is the intangible value of the value of communication, of FaceTime, of listings, of presence, of marketing, of branding, of, the ISAs are intangibles of, okay, yes, you can have a transaction coordinator, but they will never do what our girls do. They will never fight for your deals because they're being paid by the transaction. Whenever they're an employee and they work with us, they're literally fighting for your deal just as hard as you are. And our transaction coordinators, they have a sole goal of helping to get you a referral before the end of the transaction. They're actually going to be asking for a referral for you. So there are huge intangibles that provide so much value that I think if you're really not communicating, oh, your team did that for you. The listing presentations, they're done for you. All of my business relationships and partnerships and our rent to own programs and our, buy before you sell programs, all of those are intangibles because they help our agent win the deal. That didn't cost me anything. That's my relationship. That was my time invested in my people so that they win. Even as simple as multiple offers, we have a system. We created that. You jump on this team, that system like that. Your deals as a new agent are going to be accepted where others aren't. So I really feel like intangible value is something that as leaders, we really need to talk about, because sometimes winning the deal, getting in front of someone and saying, how am I different? How can I help you become a buyer or seller? That's value. It's huge value. It's not just, hey, let me give you a lead. Like, if you don't know what to do with it, you don't know how to get them in the home, you don't know how to grab the listing, there's no value there.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is what specifics do you use to talk to someone who maybe is a good producer? First of all, how do you recruit for your team? Or you're so out there, you've got such a great reputation. Do people just come to you, or are you approaching other people? How do you build your team?
It's mostly referrals. Either they've found us online. We've actually just had an agent move here from Tennessee. She did her research. She was on another team. She reached out to several other teams in the area that she liked their style and what they had out there. So I'd say your presence is important. And we went through the process, and she did interview with a couple other teams and chose us. And we do actively, we do the Wise Hire ads. I reach out to vendors. We certainly do all those things. Hey, we're looking. We do those. We're going to be starting campaigns now because we had a producer. She sold about 80 homes on her own as a very small team. So we've also had the reverse happen, right? We've had a producer leave to start their team. We've also had a person that had a team come and join us. And we worked out a retirement strategy for her. She wanted to retire and actually was able to make more money with us and retire a year earlier than her original plan because of joining us.
Mm-hmm.
So we have double stories. Everyone's situation is personal, and we actually got her on video. So we're going to use her video testimony of what it was like growing her own team versus what it's like on a team and being a part of a team and what it's done for her income and her life. And we're going to use that, of course, as a tool. And it's just, you have to want it. At the end of the day, you have to want to be a part of the team. And it's not that you join a team because you can't be successful on your own. We actually want people who can be successful on their own, but they choose to do it with other people. They choose the camaraderie. They choose to not have to hire and be the person that says, I'm going to do it on my own. Mm-hmm. We want the people that are like, oh my God, thank God I don't have to go through the hiring process. Thank God I don't have to fire anyone. Because when you're a new small team, it does appear to be easier, right? It's all fun. You're working with your friends. But like you said, they will always leave you. There are people, you need to guarantee yourself that they're going to leave. And that's when the messiness of teams starts, is when you have to hire and train and fire, and you got to go without people for a period of time. And you still have to keep sales afloat and be sane and deliver customer service. That's where teams get hurt.
I'm looking at our time. I'm getting nervous because I have 100 questions. But I'm assuming, and this will be sort of the, two sides of the same question. Maybe one answer will handle both. And that is, you're probably not hiring everybody that says, hey, I want to be on the CC Underwood team. So I'd like to hear a little bit about that, and maybe the same answer will answer this other question, which is, okay, so now you've got them, now you've got someone on the team. Are you holding them to strict standards? And let me draw a little more specificity to that. And that is, okay, well, I've got this whole system and this whole program. Now I've got Joe here, and Joe is doing 30% at best of what we tell him to do. However, he's still producing.
Mhm.
That's a problem for teams, because I got like, oh yeah, I've got all these amazing teams. Yeah, Joe, he doesn't. I got 4 people, they follow lockstep, no problem. Some of them are good and some of them aren't good, even when they're following lockstep. But I got Joe, he barely does any of this, but they kind of call it the friend of the team, right?
Mhm.
What do you do about that? What do you do how do you make sure you want them on the team? And then what happens once they get on the team and they're not following all the stuff, but they're still producing?
Yeah. For us, it comes down to the person. It comes down to integrity. Do they have ego? Because sometimes producers have an ego so big that it hits you before they get in the room, and that is a culture killer. So what we've learned through a lot of the changes is I would rather have a fantastic person. Like, no, I'm not strict on what they produce, because people can be culture contributors and be just as much of a value as those who are producing and giving an educational and a leadership type of contribution. So they can sell as much as they want to. Now, do we have a minimum? Yes. You, by year 2, you need to sell 2 homes a month, because otherwise, that financially, it doesn't make sense. But if they're happy, and right, financially, and I mean for a team, right, because there are splits. I'm not going to skip around and act like an additional split doesn't change something. But for someone who's selling less than 2 homes a month, it really does. And honestly, financially, it might benefit them. So as long as financially they're good with their income and they're happy and they want to be a part of the team, I'm not going to say you have to produce more.
Mhm.
That's not who I am. So it's not one of those, you have to do 3 a month or you're out of here. Like, that's stupid.
Mhm.
Um, because there are other things that are important to a team.
Yeah,
Sure.
I like that. There was one thing that you said, Cece, there, where you're bringing in people that match the right culture. Do you ever get people that come in and say, straight out, they're just like, I just want leads, right?
Mhm.
And is that a red flag for you, or do you work with them still?
It depends. I mean, for the most part, I would say that's a no, but also I do understand as a team that is part of our value. So I think it depends on where it comes from, the place that it comes from. Is it a, hey, like, I deserve this type of mentality? Then the answer is no. But if it is from a place of, I'm struggling and I don't know how to generate, if it comes from a place of, I'm willing to learn, and this is important to me financially, and I wasn't trained well, then I'm going to explore further.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Paul, anything you want to add on that one?
Well, you
You're
know
good.
what? We've got some really cool people on our, I know we've gone Facebook Live too, and I can't see that part, Tristan can, but I can see from our region, we've got some great folks. And I do have one question, maybe we have time for that. And that is, Yvette asked, where can we find the D-Hire checklist? And here's a key one. How do you let your clients know that an agent they were working with has left the team? So how are you maintaining that contact with that? That's a great question.
I would say it depends on each, but as we don't, our admin, Katie, our director of operations, she has like a physical checklist of step-by-step of, right, where their logins, their emails, the things that need to be turned off, shut down. From an administrative standpoint, there is a checklist. And so what we do with the agents is we will sit down with them and we'll ask them, right, we want to get a mutually agreed upon list that, right now you have a relationship. Because again, I will never mess with a relationship, because we will both lose. You never, ever mess with a relationship between the buyer and seller. Yes, I would love to all day say, don't ever talk to that person, that it's a team lead. Yes, you've been working with them for 3 months, but we're going to take it back. That's wrong. I mean, to me, I feel like that's wrong for the buyer, for the customer. They matter more than any type of situation me and an agent could go through. So I do sit down with them and say, who do you have a relationship with? Who are you actively working with to get their home on the market or buy a home in the next 6 months that you are very active? I want to make sure that that's a protected list, that we don't communicate, because that makes us look bad. If we're starting reaching out to people and they've already vested and committed to an agent, that really makes me and my team look bad, that it looks like we're trying to take them away. I never want that perception to a customer. They matter more than any lead I buy, my reputation and how we handle that thing. So that's always good with the agent. And again, that's all part of the expectation. You're going to work with these are the agents we agreed upon. You will work with them. They're still team leads that you're going to continue to work with to preserve that relationship. And it's a win-win, because the team split is still going to be paid for those. And they are, right, it's a win for them because they're going to continue to work with that person, and they are actually going to benefit from getting a referral, not the team. So it is a win-win, because we don't take anything on referrals when someone exits. That's there. They've earned that. So there, as far as the checklist, there's not really a big one except for administratively. And then it's just the mutually agreed upon, hey, we do a once a month check-in. Where are you? Have you gotten anyone under contract? Has anyone reached out to you? Because in reality, there's social media. I don't have to announce it. They're going to see, because that agent is going to blast all over social media that they've changed brokerages, or they've gone on their own, or they're starting their own team. They're going to see it. I don't really have to. And there's a percentage that are going to stay with them and refer them. But there's also a percentage, like we did care calls the other night for agents that left our team. We found a good percentage that they weren't staying in touch with and are doing business with us. So it all evens out. You know, there's no reason to like make anything nasty. People are going to have relationships. And as we all know, we're going to take relationships where they weren't building. And if we didn't have a tight enough relationship, they're going to benefit. But it all works out.
I do have one more question in the chat box, and then I know we got to let Cece go. From Christina Blue, who's a fabulous realtor and buddy of ours.
What's up, Christina?
Hey. How do you decide who gets leads? Is it based on production?
No. It is absolutely not. So for listing leads, they have to go through a 4-week listing boot camp. Once they're certified, then they can receive team listing leads. But for the most part, it's availability. Certain price points will be based on production and experience, because again, the customer needs to benefit. We're not going to put a brand new agent with $1 million buyer who does not know. So outside of a luxury level price point, everyone shares their calendar. It's based on availability, communication with the ISA, because she rules our world. So if she's putting an appointment on an agent's calendar and they don't respond and accept it right away, she has the power to move it. If they are not updating her on notes and being respectful of the time she's taken to nurture that and give them an appointment, and they don't let her know how it is and how it's going, then she's going to pull back on that agent. She's going to assume they're too busy and they don't need it anymore until they've updated their notes. So it's more of a being respectful of the one that has set the appointment to provide the notes and feedback, and availability and location. So it's not really a round robin. I don't even like to say round robin. You know, and some agents, some weeks are going to be very busy, and so they may not get as many, you know, appointments that week as another person who has more availability.
Yep. And got the comment, love the boot camp. Well, you know what? I tried the hat, but I didn't get any of CC's super vibe. So I got to stick with my own. And Tristan, you got a cool hat too. So I'm jealous of you guys. But every time we do this, I just get totally amazed, CC, and I really encourage the people in our regions to if they're not on this call right now, I always make sure that I promote it, because I want people to hear what you have to say and what can we do to pay you back. I know that you get a lot of business from agent referrals. So why don't you tell us where you are, and also maybe how we can find you on social media. And Tristan, you do the same. You can find me at Paul Mark Morris on Facebook and Instagram are primary channels for me. And maybe Cece can tell us where to find her and how can we help you? How can we send you referrals and build your business?
I'm on Clubhouse, Instagram, CC Underwood. You can find me there at CC Underwood Life on Instagram. Facebook is definitely my go-to. I'm on all the social media. I'm here in Jacksonville. So our team helped 81 agent referrals close in 2020. We are super focused on helping our agent partners get paid as well. So Jacksonville, Fernandina Beach, and St. Augustine are 3 primary markets that we serve.
Mm-hmm.
Just message me.
And Tristan, everybody knows where to find Tristan, but why don't you, Tristan, why don't you give your, give where to find you as well? Obviously, Lab Coats, but what else? If you're not a member of Lab Coats, you need to get on Facebook and request. I tell every realtor I bump into to do that.
Yeah, just jump into Lab Coats, but you can find me on Instagram or Facebook under Tristan Almada, and be happy to talk to you. Cece,
Love it.
Thanks for being with us. We love your hat. Follow Cece on TikTok. She does amazing TikToks. Her last one was a Michael Jackson pose on top of a table.
What?
And obviously send her all the referrals for the area she covered, Jacksonville. So thank you, Cece. Appreciate you being on.
Having me.
Thank
so
you for
generous with
supporting
your
our area.
information and all good stuff. Thank you very much.
Bye, buddy.
Thanks, Cece. Thanks, everybody.